pastimes more grotesque than competitive eating. The concept of a bunch of guys pushing their anatomy to its limits just for sport leaves a bad taste in my mouth in more ways than one. But imagine if these men didn't adopt this habit just for fun. Imagine if some gross biological error forced them to eat like this for their entire life. Introducing Tarare. Tarare was born in France around
I feel like I've seen this guy's vids before, but I don't think I've seen this one, man.
to a poor farming
Local is a friend you can trust,
except that his
except he's
appetite
miles
was
away.
so voracious that, by his teens, Tarare could eat an entire quarter of a cow carcass in a single day. You'd think he'd be like mega obese, but no, he only weighed 100 pounds by age 17. However, there were still a few things that stood out about Tarare appearance-wise. For one, he had a huge, stretched-out mouth with horribly stained teeth. He could reportedly fit 12 eggs in his cheeks at once, much like a chipmunk keeping its chipmunk eggs warm. Additionally, when Tarare was full, he'd get a crazy octomom gut going, and any other time, he'd have a huge flap of stretched-out skin hanging around his waist. He also stank to high hell, even by 18th century French peasants.
Local Trey threw up chicken nuggets? No, bro.
To such a degree
that is not a vibe, man. I'm sorry.
that he could not be endured within the distance of 20 paces. So between all this and his horrendous outhouse flooding dumps, his family had had enough. Alright, you're eating us out of house and home here. You gotta go, man. You heard me. Kick bricks, Froggy.
Wow,
you just called a French person a frog. That's so racist. No, it's not. They're all French. The guy just looks like a frog is all. Oh. Well, too late. I'm already offended. That's fair. Dislike. After leaving home, Tarare was forced to beg and steal just to satisfy his gargantuan appetite. Inevitably, people began to take notice of him, and eventually he landed a job as a street performer in Paris. People would
Oh, Wendy's, I'm trying to vibe with my nuggets, dude. Wendy's for sure,
apples,
bro.
eggs, and even wine corks, and watch in delight as he horked them down without the slightest hesitation. Normally, this went off without a hitch, except for one time when he suffered a severe intestinal blockage. Fortunately, the crowd was kind enough to carry him to the hospital, where he was treated with the strongest laxatives the 18th century had to offer. I would draw what happened next, but it would probably get my channel deleted. So let's just picture it for a few moments.
Sam is so funny. Is that his real name?
1792. This marks the beginning of the War of the First Coalition. Ever heard of it? Me neither. Who was in it? Fucking everyone. Anyway, Tarare decided to enlist in the war. After all, maybe that profound emptiness he was feeling was just a lack of purpose in life. Turns out, no, he really was just psychotically hungry. Even after being granted quadruple rations, Tarare would still be digging through the trash pile whenever he got the chance. After suffering extreme exhaustion, he was sent off to the military hospital in Souterrain. The staff there was so dumbfounded by the man's abilities that they decided to keep him there to run a few experiments. The first of which involved putting Tarare in a room with a meal prepared for 15 people. Naturally, he ate the entire thing and immediately fell asleep. Next, they presented him with a raw eel. In response, Tarare crushed the eel's skull between his teeth before slurping down the entire creature in one go.
Oh my god.
Now, this is hair-clenchingly horrifying for a couple of reasons. Firstly, he put a whole frickin' eel in his stomach, but secondly, there had to be some point during digestion where the meat was gone but the bones still remained. Now, for those of you who don't know, an eel skeleton looks like this. Okay. That means Tarare had all of those needle-sized ribs stabbed.
Wait, so what'd you guys say happened to this guy? He like quit for 2 years and came back?
Into the walls of his stomach at once, and he was fine. He also,
dude, hell yeah, Josh, that's what's up, bro.
Ripped a live cat apart with his bare hands, drank its blood, and ate everything but its bones, and then later gagged up the fur and skin like an owl, but, you know, that's neither here nor there. After reviewing our data, I've come to the scientific conclusion that, yeah, we gotta go.
Yep, he just came back a few days ago. Oh, okay, for sure.
Goddamn demon on our hands. But as we all know, with great devour comes great responsibility. Since Tarare was still technically enlisted, the military decided to utilize his abilities for the greater good. Hey Tarare, it's me, the General. Listen, could you eat this box with a note in it for me? Aww.
Oh, we wanted to focus on college? Oh, okay.
If you do it, we'll give you...
Yeah, dude, these animations and the whole story and all of it, bro, would take so long to make, I feel like.
Be a wheelbarrow full of bull organs. Lo and behold, 2 days later, he passed the container in mint condition and was given his reward as promised. With this proof of concept, they made him an official spy and sent him into Prussia with a document in his belly, to be delivered to an imprisoned French colonel. Unfortunately, there are a couple things Tarare couldn't do that are generally important when sneaking into another country. A, he couldn't speak German, and B, it's pretty hard to maintain a low profile when you're running around like a madman wolfing down garbage and mutilating small animals. So he ended up being captured by the enemy. Initially, Thankfully, he kept his mouth shut, for once. But after a whipping and a
Not
day
the
in jail,
frickin'
Terraria
rooster.
gave in. After confessing that he did, in fact, have vital intelligence
It's one of my
sneaking its way through
barnyard
his GI
animals.
tract, the Prussians chained him to a latrine until the box emerged 30 hours later. The note wasn't actually anything important, so they just mock executed him, gave him a severe beating, and sent him on his way. After all that, Terraria returned to life at the hospital, desperate.
Wait, how did he survive that? Wait, hold up.
Intelligence snaking its way through his GI tract. The Prussians chained him to a latrine until the box emerged 30 hours later. The note wasn't actually anything important, so they just mock executed him, gave him a severe beating, and sent him on his way.
Mock
After all that,
executed him.
Terraria returned to life at the hospital, desperate for a cure for his condition, but nothing they ever tried worked. Meanwhile, the man's endless hunger continued to get him into all sorts of trouble. He'd often sneak out of the hospital to eat the scraps behind the local butcher and fight
What the
stray
fuck,
dogs
bro?
in the alley for their precious garbage. He'd also seek out patients undergoing bloodletting in order to take all their life juice for himself. On several occasions, he was even caught attempting to eat bodies in the mortuary. By this point in my research, I was so desensitized to this guy that I didn't even bat an eye when I first read that. I was just like, alright, guess he must have been hungry. Anyway, the hospital staff begrudgingly tolerated Terraria's buffoonery, until one day when he went too far. Well, Terraria, you've only had 3 mess hall raids, 4 miscellaneous trash-related mishaps, and 1 cadaver defiling. So I'd say, so far, this week's been pretty good. Doctor, we should probably inform you that a 14-month-old child has gone missing from their room. Terraria, look at me. Did you eat a fucking baby? Terraria was promptly kicked out of the hospital and spent 4 years out and about doing, whatever horrific shit you can imagine. When he came back, he was suffering from
Dude, does country culture need to teach this man about growing vegetables, man? It's infinite food glitch, bro. What is this guy thinking?
advanced tuberculosis and died shortly after arrival. During his autopsy, the surgeons found that when they looked into his mouth, they could see all the way down his throat and into his stomach cavity. As you can imagine, his whole abdominal region was profoundly deformed. Basically, if this is a normal human, this is what they found inside Terraria. Just like the man's mind, we can see that around 90% is devoted towards food and 10% towards everything else. So, moral of the story here is that no, you know what? Not even I can find anything resembling a moral here. Not all stories have a point to them. Sometimes they're just sad and
Oh my god, bro. He's gonna do us like that, man.
And now a word from our sponsor. As you can probably tell, I'm a very visual person when it comes to learning. I firmly believe that engaging visuals are an essential teaching tool that allows for much deeper comprehension than plain old walls of text. That's why I'm pleased to introduce...
What a story, bro. No, that actually is like a lot of F here, bro. Holy shit. Oh, when you were saying Sam, oh my god, I'm so dumb, bro. Sam Onella. I'm dumb. Watch his newer one. Yo, Aliex, what's good, bro? What's good? What's good, bro? What are you doing up at this hour, Aliex? It's a nuts story and it's super funny. What, the new one or the one we just watched?
I just woke up from a nap I took
the one we
in
just
January
watched.
2020, and boy are my arms tired. Let's see what I missed.
Was
Queen's dead, war in Ukraine, the Taliban's back.
I just saw Avatar in 3D.
Holy shit.
Oh shit.
They made him.
I was too baked for that story, bro. I can't even lie, man. The Avatar in 3D, that must have been crazy, bro. Holy shit.
Scoob. Unprecedented global pandemic, Space Jam 2, some popular guy named Brandon. Yep, that just about covers it. Anyway, we all know about the scientific names of animals, but did you ever wonder what they actually mean? To find out, we must look to taxonomists. They're the guys responsible for the systems of nomenclature we use to classify organisms, and boy are they convoluted. First you got the big 8, domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. I've seen plenty of mnemonic devices for this, but since the D just showed up in the 90s and is still disputed by some scientists, he's usually not included. So allow me to suggest a few. Dizzy kids puke cereal on fairground staff. Dumb kittens pushing cups over feeds growing spite. Donkey Kong's oh!
I'm gonna start watching this guy every day.
Serendipitously,
Let's go.
the way this whole thing works differs slightly depending on which kingdom you pick. So
How
today
often
we'll
does
be
he
sticking to
post?
the animal
I
one
guess I could
because that one's the
check,
coolest and I'm in it. So what constitutes each taxon is pretty arbitrary. They basically just serve to act as another set of branches in the tree that taxonomists build. The one exception is species, which is generally defined as any group of animals that can have babies with each other that aren't sterile freaks. Mule,
Okay,
liger,
okay.
zedonk, skunk.
We got some
They can
penguin
live
action
fulfilling
going
lives,
on.
but they're all shooting blanks, so they don't count. On the other hand, in our innumerable trespasses against God, we can make things like chidandanes, which actually work, so dogs are dogs are dogs. Besides species, though, it's the
Yeah, that
Wild
shit's
West.
weird.
Plenty of times, 8 tiers isn't even enough for scientists, so they just stick new sub-levels in between. Legions, cohorts, tribes, series, divisions, and if you want to keep going, you can throw all kinds of prefixes on any of these for even more layers. There's even subspecies, which the more pedantic of you may think to yourselves that creating names for subspecies at all kind of undermines the single somewhat agreed upon definition in the whole tree. To that, my friends
True,
taxonomists
true.
say, But while that's pretty complex, the actual names themselves are pretty easy to wrap your head around. Though taxonomists may hide behind their fancy Greek and Latin, the Vulgate is no substitute for wit. Now, I've scraped through the scientific names of a load of species, and most of them can be
Holy
split into a few
shit,
categories. The simplest ones are the animals that already have names in Greek or Latin. It's a lion, I'm
This
calling
man
it a
did his
dog.
research,
Tiger, it's a
bro.
tigris. Cat, it's a caddis. Easy. Multi-word names can be translated the same way. For the golden eagle, we got Aquila chrysaetos. Gold eagle eagle. They decided to be a show-off and do eagle in Greek and Latin. Essentially the same though. But if a species is too specific or exotic for a one-to-one translation, that's when you gotta get a little creative. A lot of the time, inspiration comes from just giving the creature the old once-over and pointing out some cool-looking body part. Generally, the more distinct of an identifying feature it is, the more likely it'll get in the name. For example, Homeboy took one look at this thing and said, "Yup, red triangle slug. I'm going on break." We call this thing a fucking
that actually
unicorn,
what it's
almost like that
called,
means
bro?
one horn or something. Also, some guy deadass looked at an octopus and said, "Well, all they got is heads and feet. I'ma call them headfoot." And now biologists everywhere say cephalopod unironically. Matter of fact, if it's got feet, chances are that's part of its name somewhere. You got 4 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, 2 feet, equal feet, both feet, double feet, stomach feet, lip feet, sucker feet, wing feet, big feet, slow feet, or feet, both feet, joint feet, no feet, 10,000 feet, cow's feet, spade feet, cat feet, small feet. If it doesn't look that interesting, another thing
That
to
was a
point out is
banger.
where you found it. This could be a territory
I
like
can't even lie with
American
y'all, man.
bear or Siamese crocodile, or just a habitat like woods macaque or toilet rat. But that's boring. We need to look at the men
Toilet
behind
rat?
the magic and what drives and motivates them. Now, if there's one
I'm
thing that the
intrigued.
scientific community loves, it's clout. And there's no better way to go down in history than plastering your own name on some shit you found. But not all fields have the same volume of things to scribble the old John Hancock over. On the one end, you got physicists just making up their own slightly different form of ionizing radiation measurement. And even then,
gotta
only
rap
the
on
top
the
dogs
animal
got
feet
away
beat.
with it. No
True,
zoology.
bro.
Any little goober flouncing through the underbrush can say,
That's
"This
so
one has
shit,
13
man. We
spots,
some
but
toilet
the one
rats
in the
for
books
real,
only got
bro. That's what
11.
it feels
I will
like.
call him Splinkus's ladybird." Alternatively, plenty of biologists have given shout-outs to their contemporaries, both other biologists and those across the academic gamut, from geologists to physicists to explorers and more. Naturally, Darwin's got a shitload, but even the background characters get immortalized one way or another. Who are Thompson, Grant, Summer,
I need to
and
sample
Erlanger,
the
Speed,
animal
EA?
feed
I
me.
don't know, but they've all got
Yes,
gazelles,
bro.
so they must be pretty cool. Of course, other times
But
the name
that
checks go
rat
to people who had
gang.
fuck all to do with anything except
Yo,
for one
Vanity,
taxonomist
welcome
being
back,
a fan
welcome
of
back.
theirs. Plenty of popular celebrities have species named after them, but since all the big cute stuff was found and branded a while ago, most of these idols are commemorated through repulsive little invertebrates. You got Scaptia, Beyonce. The only similarity I can gather here is Queen Bee, looks like a bee, both not a real bee.
Are these
There's
names
Anomphos
real that he's saying, though?
gregarious, an old stone named
That's
after an
actually
old
crazy
stone.
if
In
it is, bro.
2007, one Jason Bond, a
It's gotta be
professor of
real.
biology at UC Davis, dubbed this little dude Myrmecia Neil Youngie to honor his favorite musician, which caused my man Stephen Colbert to go on TV and profess his utter indignation at not having a spider named after himself. So naturally, the next year, Bond
They're all
actually
real?
went
What
on the
the
Colbert Report to
fuck,
announce the
bro?
naming of apostagist Stephen Colbert.
What?
So, if that gives any of you epic biologists out there
Bro,
any
people
ideas,
get paid so
I
much
wouldn't
just
be
to name
opposed.
these
Please, I would do anything.
creatures.
For the love of God, I'll even take a lichen. The world of politics is by no means immune to this phenomenon. Obama alone has fucking 9, as do a load of other presidents. Trump's got a moth with funny hair, Bush has a fungus beetle, Reagan's
What?
a wasp, Carter's got a
I
darter,
actually
and so
didn't
forth.
know any
Even
of this
Austria's
shit,
most
bro.
famous painter got the honor through this
Why'd
blind
no one
cave
teach
beetle.
me
Mind you,
this?
it was 1933, so you can only blame the guy a tiny bit. Hitler actually wrote him a letter saying, "Oh, thank you, my little entomologisch," and then went on to do, Hitler things. Fun fact, not only was this beetle stuck with just about the worst name you could have. It's also now facing extinction solely because of its value to Nazi memorabilia collectors.
Yo.
Guess old habits die hard. Oh, fictional characters have their fair share of
Fair
species
enough.
under their belt. On the topic of evil
We need a
beetles,
little
this one's
ode
named
to
after
Culture
Darth
Rick.
Vader. He kind of looks like his helmet, I guess. This was actually named by the
Yo,
same guy who
it's-
did the Bush one and belongs to the same gene.
It's gonna come out of the barnyard, man. It's gonna make its way out the hay.
There's also this mite, genus Darth Vaderum, which is a lot more accurate and frightening. In 2012, a single bone
Yo, Levi, what's good? They wanted me to react to Sam Onella on YouTube, man. So that's what's going on right now.
from above the eye socket of a hitherto unidentified theropod dinosaur was being studied. And suddenly, under the light of the full moon, the guy working with the specimen had his neck covered with hair and his lips clenched into a pog and his endocrine system filled with soy, and he said, "It's just like the eye of Sauron." And then he started chewing on Funko Pops and
the
sweating
fuck?
cream of meme and snorting G Fuel and shitting D20s everywhere until the prostate stimulation made him. The dino's genus is now Sauroniops, from Eye of Sauron. This spider was named after Godric Gryffindor because it looks like the Sorting Hat. SpongeBob has not a sponge, but a fungus. The legendary birds from Pokemon each have their own, you guessed it, beetle, and the list goes on. Scientists are nerds. Who knew? Anyway, while this all seems kind of chaotic, there is some method to the madness. One rule is the principle of priority. This states that once somebody publishes their chosen name for a
I love you
species
too,
for the
Get Lucky,
first
I love
time,
you
that's
too.
the name, and other taxonomists typically can't change it. This has led to plenty of misnomers coined by whoever got their foot in the door first, particularly in the case of the guys doing this stuff before we had the luxury of genetic analysis. Here's one. Red panda? Nah. Shining cat, coined in 1825. To be fair, they're actually about as close to cats as they are to actual pandas, so whatever. Here's
Dude, that
two.
thing's so
Capsicum
cute,
chinense.
man.
Eaten there? Sure. Native? Only off by around half a globe, where literally all hot peppers came from. This principle holds true even if someone thinks
That
they
did
found
look like
new
a hot
species,
pepper,
only
man.
to
You
later
can't even
discover
lie.
that it was already named. For example, in 1824, one John Edward Gray documented the plain zebra, calling it Equus burchellii, or Burchell's horse, named after a renowned naturalist of the day. Little did he know, back in 1785, some other douche classified this character as the quagga. The last quagga died in a Dutch prison in 1883, so why do we care? Well, in the 2000s, scientists decided to scrape some gunk off a dry quagga pelt and study its DNA. And from that they realized, wait a minute, apparently this guy and zebras could have, made a little plaid in the hay together. So technically they're one species, and today they're both called quagga. Sounds kinda asinine, but then again so does asinus, and that worked out fine. Just to
Can't believe
maintain
low
the
culture
distinction,
invented
the
all these
extinct
animals.
subspecies
For real,
was
dude. I
renamed
invented them
quagga
so
quagga,
quick,
so
I
you
guess
know
I
it's the
forgot
real
their
quagga.
names,
This double
man.
naming convention has been
Shit.
done with a lot of subspecies, in fact. Wild horse, spotted panther, or my favorite, gorilla. Just like, yeah, it's the gorillest gorilla that ever gorilla. What the fuck you want from me? A closely related rule also states that the names of all taxa have to be unique. So if two people coincidentally name any taxon the same thing, the older one gets to stay and the new one gets the boot. Like if you saw a genus called echidna, you'd think it was, an echidna, right? Well, no, that'd make too much sense. For a while it was true, from 1797 to 1811. Then it was pointed out that someone else already
Low culture, what were you on when you invented? I already forgot how to say his name, bro. I think it was Tartar? I don't
called
know.
a genus of moray eels.
I was in the
echidna back in
barnyard, man. I was on the farm growing vegetables, man. Baling hay. Shucking corn, brother. I was on my cowboy duties, man. So I had no time to go and even figure out what was going on with the lad, man.
1788. So the real echidna had to be changed to tachyglossus, or quick tongue. Then a decade later, a dude did the same thing for a genus of vipers. Another 22 years passed, people discovered the same thing, and they were renamed to bitches.
Tare. Oh my god.
That one at least made a bit of sense, given that the original
Tare.
echidna from Greek mythology was half lady, half
Tare.
snake,
Oh,
but who cares
okay.
at this point? Anyway, I've just barely
Tare.
scraped the surface of all the goofy names out there, so feel free to post more down below. That's all I've got for now. Till next time, I'm Sam Mella,
all right,
and I'll see
all
you
right.
in 2025.
All right. Hold on. We gotta